Butter Bond is a metal clay glue created by Karen Rumpel. It's truly my honor to introduce to you in the entire metal clay world, no pun intended, Butter Bond. This product came about because Karen didn't like the mess and the struggle she dealt with when working with water and or paste. Karen has been working diligently on this product and testing for almost a year. Her hard work has paid off and she has given us an amazing product that literally works like glue. Congratulations, Karen.
Here is the list of tools that I used for this video. Of course, my ruler, my needle tool, which has 3 different size needles in it, my rolling slats, a texture of your choice, my metal clay world loop. This is a generic bottle just for me. Of course, Better Bond, Goldie Hard, my brushes, my files, my sculpting tools, my straight edge, my burrs, as well as whatever gemstones or CCs that you want to use.
Okay, let's get started. This clay has only been air dried. I did not put it in the dehydrator. The bottle comes with the 2 caps. It comes with a regular dropper as well as the precision tip. You want to take the dropper part of the bottle out just by putting your fingernail underneath there, snapping it up to not damage the tip or the bottle, and then just put your precision tip on. I am attaching these flowers to the earring-sized turtles. Put a little bit on the back of the flower and a little bit on the turtle. Not too much. You'll see in this video that I did do a little too much, and then I had to kind of clean it up a little bit. So once you get the Better Bond on the back of your flower and on your piece, you're just going to attach it and just push it down, give it a little bit of pressure so it can bond. And this one wasn't quite where I wanted it, so I used my needle tip tool to move it over a tad. And then I just pressed it so it would do exactly what it's supposed to do, bond. And I did end up snapping the neck on that turtle. We'll visit that because it wasn't flat. We'll revisit that later in the video. Same thing with this one, a little bit on the flower. And that's the beauty of the precision tip, because not a lot comes out, or a little bit more if you're doing something bigger. You can use the dropper. Same thing with this one. I'm just going to position it in the place where I want it and just push it down to hold until it bonds a little bit. It really doesn't take very long, but again, I did use a little too much on these little guys, so I did end up having to clean them up. So the 2 big turtles, you'll see at the end what I did with the other one, but I did 2, one specifically because, oh, here we go, I'm going to break off his leg, and then I'm going to snap him in half, and then I'm going to show you same kind of thing. Same kind of thing. Put a little strip, and again, I did use a little too much, but precision tip, a little strip of the Better Bond on this piece as well as the adjoining piece, which I didn't put that on the second piece yet, I don't think. This is a voiceover, just so you know, because I was afraid to do it live while I was doing it. I did. Okay, so I put the strip on both little pieces, and you see that a little bit comes up to the surface. So once you get that put together, hold it, and I'm pushing down, not too hard as to break it again, but pushing down and pushing it together until it bonds. I mean, it bonds, it really does bond pretty quickly. And we're just going to hold it. And now I'm just going to take my little round clay sculpting tool and just go over the seam to, take off the excess. And it does not hurt the piece to have it on there. It doesn't do anything to the clay, to have the extra on there. It actually is quite nice for the clay. So we're gonna let that big one dry for a bit. I just want to check this little one and clean out around behind where the better bond came out a little bit. And I did end up moving that. Again, I did use a little too much, so I'm repositioning it. We're going to finish cleaning it up, and we're just going to let it sit. I love that needle tool. It's so easy to get into those little places, too. Now we're going to attach the leg. Same premise as that we did with the body. But you see when I hold it up, you can't even see that seam line. So that is the other beauty of this. And I didn't do anything additional than what you saw. So I'm going to put a little bit, if you didn't notice, there's some little bit of better bond over there. I just took a little bit of it, went over the seam again, and ended up putting it on his whole body. In the back, I'm going to do the same thing. Just going to go over that line. Like I said, you can't see it, and I could barely see it. But I'm just going to smooth it all out just in case there was any additional wet stuff there. Stuff is really easy to use. We'll let him dry for a minute. Oh, this is the head to the little tiny turtle. You can just, he's not very good in the camera, but it's the same thing. I just put some better bond on his neck and between his body. And I end up taking it off. And I was going to leave this part of the video out, but I decided not to. So you're going to see that I have a problem with his head. So just, again, a little strip of the better bond where the break is on his body. And then just attach the head. This is where the problem comes in for me. It's a little out of camera, out of focus here. So the problem is not the better bond. The problem for me is that the head is small for me, comparatively speaking, and my fingernails are actually the problem. So I'm going to get some tweezers because I think that's going to work better and see how that works out. So I did put a little bit more on his head, and his head is now in tweezers, and we're going to just try to push him together, which again doesn't really work out because it's little. He keeps snapping out of the tweezers. Tweezers are not my friend. So we're just maneuvering the head with the tweezers. Pretty self-explanatory. And I just end up getting it together with my fingers. But again, the better bond's not the problem. It's my fingernails that were the problem. But I didn't want to take it out. I wanted you to see it. And you'll see I end up breaking the head on the other one when I set the stone. And that one goes a lot smoother than this one. But I think it's important, to show both sides of it. I could have made this turtle, edited this all out, and you wouldn't have even seen any of this. Again, see, I'm still having a problem with the tweezers. We got it this time. So I'm just holding the pressure there between, again, I'm kind of pushing down and I'm pushing together. And his head is attached. So this is the one, again, that we put the body back together and kind of went over it with the better bond. Again, you can't even really see the seam. So now let's attach that leg. Same thing, little strip of Better Bond on the brake. I'm going to just hold the turtle up here to make sure I kind of have the leg up, just to make sure I have a general idea of where that's going to go. And his leg is big enough that I can maneuver it with my fingers rather than to try to do it with tweezers. And I am putting a little strip on his leg as well. And these actually, because I dried these on the tough cards, the tough cards don't kind of stay flat after a while, so they're a little bowed, which ended up actually being a problem for me. That's how the little turtle's head got broke, because he wasn't really flat. So same thing, I am just pushing them together while pushing them down, the leg and the body. It's the same thing that I did with his whole body instead of the leg. So just let it sit for a minute while. All right. So now we are going to. So I'm going to show you how I set my gemstones. So I have a set of burrs. I did one size down lower. The lab created spinels are 2 millimeters. So my first hole is going to be with a 1 millimeter burr. I decided to use the hand drill because they're such tiny holes. You could use like a handheld to do it if it was a bigger piece. Maybe I chose not to. The 1 millimeter burr, I am going to burr all the way through to the other side. And I will say the clay was pretty hard, and I was just so afraid of putting too much pressure when I was doing the drilling, which is what happened, and I ended up breaking the turtle's head. And again, it's because the turtle wasn't flat. I'm just taking my brush here, and I am brushing out that hole so I can kind of see where we're at to get the clay powder out of it. So we're going to finish drilling it with the 1 millimeter burr. It's important to have, and as you can see, I went through the back. It's definitely important to have calipers on hand. I use them obviously for my gemstones, my cabs, my burrs. I use them a lot. So they're great to have on hand. And I have like 4 pairs of them. So although these calipers say 1.9, it's actually a 2.0 millimeter burr. And of course, in this one, I'm only going to go a little way down because I don't want that to go all the way through. So I'm just going to, and you'll see where I check it. I just want to go a little bit down because that is the size of my gemstone. And I just need to make sure that the clay is going to sit just over the top so that when that clay shrinks, it will hold that stone in. Once again, I'm just cleaning the powder out so I can get a good look at it. I'm going to, these are little, I forgot what they're called, but I love them. They don't work so great when they're wet, but I can kind of take a look at that now. I'm going to position it with my needle tool. Be careful with that because you can scratch it. You probably would most likely want to use a very tiny ball tool. So that fits in there perfectly. So I'm going to pop that out. I'll show you why. Take a little bit of Better Bond, and I'm going to put it into, not a lot, like I don't want to put a whole drop in there. I just want to take the tip of that silicone tool and, just get that a little damp in there. And this is where this tool had a hard time picking up the stone because it got wet. The tool got wet. So I do end up using tweezers. Again, I could have edited all this out, but isn't this fun? You get to see all my mistakes. And once again, my nails are a problem. Yeah, I gave up. I went to the tweezers. Just drop your gemstone into the hole. And obviously you will need to position it in there properly. And I am using the needle tool to position it in there. But again, Be careful with that unless you dull a tip that you can use, because again, there's 3 tips in there. Dull a tip, to use for burnishing and not worry about scratching. So I went to the ball tool on this just to position it, make sure it was down deep enough. And really, that's all there is to setting those stones. Works great for round stones for sure, the burrs. And I am just going to go over the sorry, not go over. This is where I'm repairing the other head. This one goes a lot easier than the last one. And again, this broke because the turtle wasn't flat, the tough card wasn't flat. And when I pushed down when I was drilling, his head snapped off. Same concept, just put a little dab on his actual neck line where the break is and on his body. And again, just put them together. Hold your pressure there, pushing them together. And I'm also pushing down. So as you can see, this one went a lot easier than the first one. And voila, his head is attached. So obviously I'm going to set that aside to dry. But you don't need to push it down hard, nor do you need to push it hard together. The good thing is that the Better Bond, it doesn't get really mushy. So when you're pushing those pieces together, where you might have with other products or even water, the clay starts to get really mushy and disintegrate. That it doesn't happen with the Better Bond. So
All right, this is how I clean my gemstones. What you don't see, there's a little pile of alcohol, a little puddle of alcohol over here. I use my little clay shaper. I can't even see the alcohol. There it is. Dip it in the alcohol. Swipe the stone. Wipe it. I'm not used to working with 2mm stones. Wipe it. This little guy, he's all set. Same thing. Wipe it. Wipe it off. And wipe it. I am going to go back and just push them down. And let them dry. This, let me see which one it is. I think it's this one. Is it this one? Or this one? I think it's this one. See the one that I broke? Yep, it's this one. Oh, and I just put him in the alcohol. And he's all prepared. Repaired. You can also use the Better Bonds to finish your pieces. Meaning, smooth out your edges. Do some refining. And it will not hurt the clay at all. With my little magic eraser here. That's what I call it. Alright, I think he looks pretty good. You can see there, used a little too much smoothing that out. which is okay because in theory, we're going to see how it works out. I'm going to put a bezel on there. So stay tuned for that. You will notice that it looks a little wet already. That's because I thought I was recording and it didn't record twice. So third time's the charm. I just put a little Better Bond on each piece. Do not take the patina kiln off because it gives it a little grab. Then I add a little ball of clay, smush it down, and position it where I want on the turtle. It's gonna take a couple tries to get it just right. But yeah, you just push it down, and it's still, you have enough on there that you can wiggle it around a little bit if you need to. And I do have a tendency when I use fresh clay to wiggle it back and forth just a little bit to make sure it's got a good bond. And you will notice that I did not put any around the outside of the turtle, the bezel, and you'll see why in the next section. Just push it down, make sure it's tight. I did put this in the dehydrator before I fired it. I want to show you the finished product after I attached the bezel and fired it. I did not get nearly the shrinkage that I anticipated. I did not calculate shrinkage, not what I do. And you'll notice right here, there is a space here. And obviously it's because I didn't do the clay all the way to the edges. And I did that for a reason. You could do a little decorative thing around the edge to seal that, or you could bring the clay all the way to the edge. I chose not to do that just for this purpose. I want to show you that I can't even snap that. This does not even come off at all, and you saw how I did it. What I would do, however, I just don't want to cut myself. What I would do, I would have gone up to the bigger size, and that would have been the perfect size for the bigger one. I anticipated this based on where I put it in the kiln. I anticipated this bezel cup shrinking quite a bit more than it did, but it didn't. So there is the finished product. You don't see the kiln patina on it because I took it out while it was still hot, so it didn't get that patina on it. I was kind of in a hurry. So I am going to tumble this, and I might polish them up, but that is the beauty of Better Bond. That's how I made the bezel. That's how I attached it. And there you have it.